Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the Alchemy Show. I'm Danielle Green, the Alchemy Fairy, your guide in this transformation space where we turn personality into power, challenges into clarity, and dreams into your everyday reality. Each week, we're journey together, uncovering gifts that are already inside of you, aligning your life with purpose, stepping into the magic of your truest self. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and let's begin the alchemy. So this week's episode is the lantern within, leading yourself with light. What does that look like? So far we've talked about light being an inner knowing, an inner spark, right? Kind of like your soul energy. Another way you can look at light is the goodness from within. Ways you can be a light is looking at your intuition for a guide. And if you're not fully tapped into your intuition, there's other ways around it as well. There's other ways to find the inner light inside of you and use it to guide you on your journey. So as we're journeying together on this practice of becoming, there's many cycles of becoming. You can have a first level of becoming and then have 500 more levels afterwards. There's different for everyone, but for us, we're going to look at what does that next stage look like? How do you enter there with confidence, with purpose? How do you find that joy again? How do you find that spark? How do you find your vivre, purpose, your reason for living? And so part of that is being able to trust yourself, being able to trust your intuition. And if you're not sure if you can trust your intuition or you've struggled with it in the past, how can you develop that relationship where there can be trust again, or at least an increased level of awareness on this level of becoming? So looking at that from a different perspective, you could consider it self-compassion. We know compassion for others is trying to understand where they're coming from. Self-compassion is trying to understand and have forgiveness and gentleness with ourselves for where we have been in the past. Instead of viewing past versions of ourselves with criticism or harshness or judgment, instead saying, that version of me was doing the best that they could do. And having that compassionate moment. Did you do the best you could have at the time when you're reflecting on the past? And if the answer is yes, that you were genuinely doing your best, maybe you didn't know everything, just like Maya Angelou says, loosely paraphrasing the queen that is Maya Angelou, when we know better, we do better. When we have more information, when we have more awareness, when we have more knowledge, typically we try and choose better. Sometimes conviction can be painful. That can be an area of growth for some of us. Having the integrity to maintain conviction can be an area of growth for us. But looking at that self-compassion and also coupling it with dedicated healing time, setting aside time to look at why am I the way that I am about the things that I am that way about, right? What makes you tick? What makes you who you are? I believe until a certain point, we're all just operating on these environmental programs that we received during social conditioning, family conditioning, cultural conditioning. And then when we slough off these layers, we see who is at the heartbeat of my existence. What does that feel like? What does that look like? Who is that person? Do I like them, him or her, or they or them? Do I feel like I know who that is? Or is that part of me a stranger to me? Sometimes we can look in the mirror and feel like a stranger to ourselves. And that's not, it's just a sign that you have become disconnected from your inner spark, your inner soul purpose. That connectivity is important. So approaches to discover that more is, if you're able to, learn your history. Learn your generational experiences through relatives or others, or psychics, or family books, or heirlooms, or whatever you have that might be tangible or intangible to your past. Explore those things to gain clarity, because many of us, we receive and collect over time the burdens or baggage of our past, right? Not all of that is ours, which we've discussed. So understanding it and having that awareness of 3 generations ago, what was it like for them? Were they taught any of this? Emotional intelligence is barely accepted now. Do you think that they had emotional awareness and acceptance then? Probably not. They were probably doing the best that they could have at the time for survival, for their family, or if they stepped out and they let other people come in to be the family. There can be so many variables at play. And just having that generational awareness can help us to move forward in the present. So understanding that history, understanding the compassion, even in your own personal history, even in your own life history, giving yourself space to make mistakes and grow. Because if we're not making mistakes to learn from them, then we're not growing. Sometimes we make rapid fire mistakes because we're in a rush or survival or instincts kick in and they're maybe not super great. But the point isn't to live a perfect life. The point is to take life and make the most of it. And I believe also to not try and maliciously harm others. I think if we can have compassion and share our betterment or hopes for a better future with others, that is our bigger purpose, like as a whole for humanity, is to be of service and be of help to others. So looking at who has this inner light, what does that look like? And so sometimes it's intuition. So circling back to that, who has intuition? Is this just a woman's gift? I think some people think that intuition is exclusively for women. I think intuition might be connected to emotions, which women sometimes can be more aware of, more connected with innately, just because I don't think we are always so heavily socially conditioned to disconnect from them in order to manage or fit a profile. We're not told be a woman harshly, and that is like a character, an archetypal imposition on us, right? We're just going through things. But I feel like sometimes our male counterparts, they don't always get the same opportunities. So I think that's where that mislabeling might come into play, where, it's a woman's intuition. I believe everybody could have intuition. And let's talk about age groups, right? Children have intuition a lot of times. Some spiritualists consider this is because they were most recently closer to the veil, to the other side. They were more recently born than their older parents or familial counterparts, right? So sometimes children will say things or be a conduit for things, deliverers of messages from spirit. And this could be spirit known in many forms. It could be ancestor spirits. It could be the Holy Spirit. It could be Jesus or God or whatever your belief system is. But the concept of messages received from another plane of existence, not of the present realm, the physical realm. And so this level of intuition and awareness in others, whenever we're communicating, can be spirit trying to reach out and guide. It can be opportunities for deeper knowledge, deeper learning, that if we're open to them, we can receive them. And that can be hard sometimes if you're not open, or sometimes you may feel like you keep getting the same message over and over and over again, but it's because spirit feels like you're not listening. That happens a lot for me sometimes. Spirit says I'm very stubborn. And I'm sure I'm not alone. Some of us can be stubborn or have doubt. But it's a way that Spirit's trying to deepen our intuition, divine wisdom, to help us escalate and grow into the next level of our highest selves. So it's for our benefit, What does that look like? Sometimes that can feel like a nudge. It can feel like a tap on the shoulder. It could feel like, hey, like someone's trying to, or maybe pulling on your shirt. Sometimes this can be a physical sensation. Sometimes this can be like a speaking, depending on how you receive messages. There's so many different ways of knowing. There's clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance. There's so many clairs. And it can vary. And it can be beautiful how it varies. So this claircognizance, this clairvoyance, some say. Either way, it's the way of knowing, right? It's messages from spirit. This can help be our lantern within if we listen to it, if we allow access to it. And some people have some fears around that. How do you know it's spirit? Well, because it will always be trying to help you, not guide you down a dark path, not guide you down a path that isn't safe for you or for your loved ones. It's the path that's going to help you grow, help you make positive choices, positive changes. Sometimes there might be pain associated with that, but it's for your greatest good, which I feel like we all can innately have that awareness, even if it might be a bit dulled. And the more you listen to it, the more you trust it, the louder it can get, the more clear it can get. And that can also be a beautiful journey as well. So it's not just exclusive for women. And I know some people, they discount the words like out of the mouth of babes, but there really can be deeper wisdom in that. And the children may not even know or realize. They may not have that connection awareness of like, where is this coming from? But they can be very aware and positive, like conduits for good messages or good omens or warnings or connections, right? Another way you can connect to your inner light is through self-healing, inner healing, emotional healing. We all understand physical healing, right? So we're talking about emotional healing. I don't know if you've ever heard of a type of approach called EMDR. It's a very interesting form of psychology. Let me make sure I'm not saying this wrong. EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So, story time about me and EMDR, right? This is something that I tried with a therapist one time. This one time was like cramming 5 years of therapy into an hour. We went deep into the subconscious of things. EMDR is this completely different approach to traditional talk therapy. And so basically, it takes you through a visualization. And I learned many things. Like some of the things that I learned that I want to share with you. My biggest lessons from EMDR is that the first one is unhealed pain. The pain where when someone in present day makes a mistake, you get upset. It's this big reaction, this big explosive expression of big emotions that is not proportionate to what happened. That's linked to your past, to past experiences. Maybe they're yours, maybe they're not yours, maybe they are. And so that's a way of knowing like, oh, this is a lot. Maybe not from this current moment, right? It spans further back than that and deeper than that. And so EMDR kind of explores that. It says, let's take these big emotions and explore them of like, where is their origin? Where is the root of that? Where did that originally root itself in your mind that you feel this way? It could be a belief system. It could be a belief about emotions or circumstances or people or types of people. There can be many like variations of this, right? So the EMDR thing, it teaches you that your unhealed pain can often connect to some of your first pains or your first trauma. Maybe it wasn't pain. Maybe it was just something scary that happened. Maybe it was something shocking that happened that is reserved for horror movies, but it was real life. Maybe you saw something or witnessed something. And it's all connected back to that. And so that was the first lesson that I had from EMDR. And the second is that when you can see that trauma, whatever it is, for me, I'll give you a sampling of it, right? We lived in Atlanta and I was about 1. And the trauma was so bad. I remember this vividly and was haunted for many years after this time. And there was ladybugs. Everybody loves ladybugs. And they're like, oh, they're so cute. They're so precious. Not me, friend. Not me. Okay? Because in Atlanta, in this very old farmhouse, this is back before Atlanta was real big. It was in a suburb, right? There was this colony of ladybugs in the front door frame of my childhood home. Well, for at least a couple years, and then we moved a lot. But the point was, I have this core memory of being still in diapers, and what had happened was the front door slammed, shook the colony awake, and all these red and orange ladybugs, yes, they come in many colors, red, orange, yellow, green, there's many colors of them, and they start swarming. They start swarming in the house like fire. To my 1-year-old brain, I have this fire, like super, like imposition on the ceiling where they're like swarming, and it's like a fire's taking over the house. And because my eyes didn't understand it at that age, right? And so it was this obvious fear. There's a lot of big emotions that I had at that age. And so this lack of security, this lack of safety. And so my parents were there not knowing how to fight a colony of ladybugs, which is understandable. Who knows how to fight it? I don't know that anybody still does, maybe unless you're in the biz. And so trying to beat these ladybugs back with the broom. And they didn't take kindly to it, okay? And so anyways, I'm in diapers, freaking out. My mom's screaming. My dad's beating these ladybugs with a broom. And it is working, but it's not working. But then someone needs to hold the door. It's chaos. It is like hell broke loose in the living room. Okay, that should be the title of this. Hell broke loose in the living room. and so then, what I learned in this session of EMDR as an adult, right, is looking back. My child brain at the time felt very confused, scared. You know, those big emotions of helplessness, because what does a 1.5-year-old know about fighting a colony of ladybugs? Also nothing, right? We're all just winging it, whether or not you're in diapers or not. No, it's not a common skill set that we innately know as a culture, how to fight ladybugs. Which are prized for their adorableness in media, right? So I learned that my origin of the fear, the helplessness, the lack of control, I had judged myself and my kid brain had judged myself for not knowing more, doing more, being more helpful, or securing more safety for myself in the moment. My child brain had judged that, and harshly, right? So then it built in this belief system. If I work harder, do better, learn more, absorb as much as I can prevent all future ladybug colonies from infesting the home. It was this very strange belief system, but it was rooted in this experience. And I with adult eyes, I can acknowledge no one knows how to fight ladybugs, bro. Nobody knows. Okay? Quiz. Like, nobody knows. Nobody could guess this. Like, it is not something we know. And so I was able, with my adult brain and EMDR, to apply forgiveness, to apply compassion, to apply reason, and say, this is okay. You didn't know because you're 1.5 still in diapers, and you're too short to reach the ceiling. Because what baby can reach the ceiling, right? So it's just allowing that moment of adult clarity to look back at the past, of say, am I really being realistic and fair about this? Am I really seeing the truth of the moment for what the moment was? And I wasn't. It was the fear overriding that. So I share this with you to say, use your adult brain and go down the rabbit hole of your memories. Go down the rabbit hole of your mind. And even looking back in, like when I was journaling 1 or 2 summers ago, heavily into like old wounds, old parent wounds, father wound, mother wound energy, and just looking at my parents were not equipped. Seeing as an adult, being an adult that I am, looking at them with my adult eyes instead of my hurt, wounded, approval-seeking, need-based eyes, the child's eyes, and just saying they were not equipped. They did not know. There was no way. And just so taking the compassion, taking my inner light and reflecting to the past. And this is what I challenge you with this for this week, okay? Take your inner light, look at your experiences. Maybe they're your childhood experiences, maybe they're teenagehood, maybe they're early adulthood, but look at those experiences with the eyes of today and compare them, right? So looking at, how did I feel in that moment? Is that a fair assessment of what the reality was? Maybe what didn't I know or didn't I see at the time that could help me find peace, help me find compassion for them? And in the case of looking at father wound and mother wound energies, I see and I understand, and that I don't forgive. I think there's a lot of mistakes that cannot be forgiven, but just the level of understanding and saying, I know why you made the choice. As an adult, I can see that. I can see like where your thoughts went. I get it. I don't approve of it. We're still reparenting, but I understand. And being able to apply my inner light to those memories, experiences, thoughts, feelings, belief systems, when you can apply your inner light to them, it's able to help you find the way forward for yourself. A way, because we're coming full circle, it's a way for you to lead yourself out of that, out of the past, out of the pain, out of the worry, out of the anxiety. It's a way to pull through and find a new destination where you're not stuck spinning your wheels, but you can take those experiences and say, I see why things happen that way. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe it requires additional healing or thinking through and processing, in which case there's tons of different support and help and coaches and therapists and counselors and people who just want to help everyone find their next version of themselves so they can find that happiness and joy. And if you need the support, it's a great tool, but this pathway forward can help you lead yourself to a brighter future. And that's what I wanted to share with you. So thank you all for your time, for listening, for wandering through the magic with me today on the Alchemy Fairy show, for the walking through the transformation that I've experienced and seen and sharing that with me. If something stirred your soul or sparked a new thought, please share it with someone who needs a little bit of light. You are more powerful than you know. Your magic is real. Never forget that. Until next time, stay aligned, stay enchanted, and keep living your alchemy. Bye.